I know that it is way too early to be speculating about this, and I'm sure in a couple of months, we'll look back on this video and realize that, hopefully anyway, it was an overreaction. But I can't help but think after what we have seen from Patrick Williams thus far this season, and yes, I know it's only been 4 games, but should we be concerned? And that's what I want to talk about in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You've been listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Guys, before I get into the content, a huge shout out to all of you guys in Bulls Nation for getting the channel to 16,000 subscribers. I know I always say this, but I am honestly so humbled at the level of support that you guys have shown on the channel. It's why I love this fan base so much, and I cannot wait to continue following along with this team with you guys all season long. So if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, as this is going to be a fun team to keep up to date with. Also, if you caught my post-game video last night, I mentioned the sponsorship that I will be doing with Thrive Fantasy. I'm always hesitant to do sponsorships because I don't want to turn away the viewers, and I had asked you guys on the community page how you guys feel about me doing sponsorships occasionally, and I was surprised to see that most of you were incredibly supportive of it, so I do appreciate that. Like I've said, since starting this channel, I don't do Patreon or memberships of any kind. So if you want to support the channel and the work that I do, then you can use my code for the Thrive Fantasy app, and when you make your first deposit, they will actually match 100% of what you deposit into your account up to $100. So if you put $100 in, they're going to give you $100. It's free money. Why not take it? Anyway, my code and the link to the website is in the description. But anyway, enough rambling about that. Let's get into the topic. So when the Bulls drafted Patrick Williams last year in the 2020 draft with the number 4 overall selection, I think most people were surprised that the Bulls had selected him that early. Most mock drafts had Patrick slated to go towards the end of the lottery or around the middle of the first round. But as we got closer to the draft, Patrick Williams' draft stock was rising considerably, so much so to the point that the Bulls weren't confident that if they traded down in the draft to get him, that he would still be available. And so they snagged him with the number 4 pick. Now, this was right around the time when I started the channel, and I was pretty shocked by the Bulls taking Patrick at number 4. I think it was like probably my 4th or 5th video I had made on the channel at that time. But as training camp and preseason went on, you could tell this kid had talent and that he had the potential to be something special with his size, his defensive ability, and strength in getting to the basket. And of course, only being 19 years old. Now, throughout the course of his rookie season, Patrick showed up decently well. I wouldn't say he had a stellar rookie season, but he started all games that he was available. He showed that he was capable to defend some of the best players on the planet and hold his own against them, and he was an okay scorer on offense as well. Patrick played well enough to earn himself rookie second team honors, and although we would have liked to see him be more aggressive on the offensive end, we all knew that would likely come with time, as he's young and the circumstances around him entering the league were unique, and that we were in the middle of a pandemic and given a shortened offseason. Of course, Patrick Williams this offseason was able to participate in Summer League, which he showed up nicely in, is clearly the best player on the Bulls roster. Patrick's offseason was progressing nicely as we near training camp, and then of course he got injured, suffering an ankle injury, which forced him to miss most of training camp and all but one preseason game. Now, Patrick actually came back sooner than expected. It was initially thought that he would miss the first 2 regular season games, but he returned to the lineup in that final preseason game. Now, Patrick did injure his shoulder in opening night, but the injury didn't sideline him for any games, but you can almost tell the guy isn't quite himself. Now, here's what concerns me about Patrick, from what I've seen thus far anyway. First of all, we knew that by the Bulls bringing in Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan, that Patrick likely wasn't going to be getting as much exposure on the offensive end, and that by bringing in more veteran players, that Patrick's development might slow down a bit as a result. At least that's what I expected might happen anyway. But what I didn't expect to happen is to see Patrick regress on the defensive end. Now, I know some of you guys are going to be like, well, hold up, Patrick still looks fine to me on defense. And yes, he's playing solid defense when it comes to playing off the ball and help defense. But when he is playing on the ball, especially in the post, he is getting worked by the opposing team's power forward. Some of it because of size mismatch, but some of it also because the guys are just outworking him with their speed. Patrick's lateral quickness hasn't been there. He's getting crossed on certain drives to the hoop. It isn't following through in defending jump shots. And as a fan, that concerns me when you used a number 4 draft selection to get this guy. I mean, we've been talking about him for nearly a year now, that Patrick Williams has crazy potential, how he was basically considered an untouchable when it came to trade options for the Bulls. And yet here we are, again, only 4 games into the season, and Patrick has almost been non-existent for this team. And I'm not just talking about on offense. So here's some numbers to consider. Last night, the Bulls got outworked on the glass against the Raptors, getting out-rebounded 48-28. The Raptors had 20 more rebounds than the Bulls did. And you look at the starting power forward in Patrick Williams, and he had 0 rebounds last night. You just cannot have that. We need his production in the post, even if he isn't necessarily scoring, but he needs to be more active and not simply just watching what's going on. He took only 3 shot attempts and finished the game with 4 points and 2 assists in 26 minutes of play and was a -4 on the night. So for this season, Patrick is averaging 6.8 points per game and 2.3 rebounds, a half a block and half a steal with a PER of 10.90. Again, I know it's only 4 games, but this type of production is concerning. Now, it almost makes you wonder, is he just not quite fully himself? Has he not quite fully healed yet because he doesn't look as quick as he used to? He doesn't seem to hustle like he used to. And that lack of energy and trying is not what you want to see when most people were hoping Patrick would be one of the X factors in the potential future of the franchise years from now. Now, it really hasn't mattered all that much because the Bulls have so much talent in the starting lineup and the Bulls have been able to win despite Patrick's slow start. It would also be a little different if this was last season and we desperately needed his production, but it makes you wonder, does it make sense to keep putting Patrick Williams in the starting lineup? I've said this before, I do think Patrick should start. I'm not saying that the Bulls should remove him from the starting lineup permanently, but based on what we have seen, does it make sense to temporarily for a few games have Patrick come off the bench? Because if you look at the numbers and how the Bulls have performed with someone like Javonte Green starting at the 4, even though he's much smaller than Patrick, it's pretty clear that the Bulls get up and down the court in transition much better. And the difference with Green is that the lineup is much more energized with how Javonte plays and the fact that he's able to just be all over the place on both ends of the floor. I'm not saying Green is a better player than Patrick Williams, but Green in the starting lineup could give the Bulls that spark to start off games that they need. Keep in mind, in the Bulls' first 4 games, even in the blowout wins, they have never come out strong out of the gate with a commanding lead. In fact, most of their first quarter leads have been very small, if not actually behind in some instances. And the plus-minus numbers show that the Bulls have performed better when Javonte Green is playing at the 4 over Patrick Williams. The other options is potentially starting Alize Johnson, a guy who is great at crashing the board so the Bulls don't get out-rebounded by 20 against a small lineup team like the Raptors. Now, some might think, well, it's more on Vuce that the Bulls are getting out-rebounded by teams, but no, like, come on now. The Vucevic is averaging 11.5 rebounds in his first 4 games. He's doing his job on the glass, and some of that sits on Patrick as their power forward, who's getting the bulk of minutes at that position. Anyway, I know it's unlikely to happen for the Bulls to bench Patrick, as that may even slow down his development further if he were to get like 15 minutes a game, but I just think it would be worth exploring temporarily while Patrick gets his conditioning up and fully recovers from these injuries if that's really what's bothering him. Because now that the competition is picking up with the Bulls set to play the Knicks, Jazz, Celtics, the Sixers twice, and the Nets in their next 6 games, you're going to need someone who is going to be on the top of their game at that 4 spot. Now, I know some people have been saying, whether it be on Twitter or in this comment sections in these videos or the live chats that I have, that the Bulls should trade Patrick. And no, that is way too premature for a guy only 20 years old in his 2nd season. That is not happening, and it would be a mistake for the Bulls to give up on Patrick that quickly. But it might be worth exploring different lineups and rotations to see what works so the Bulls aren't getting beaten on the boards as badly as they have been. I want to know what you guys think, though. Do you think we should be concerned by what we have seen thus far from Patrick Williams, or is it just way too early to be worrying about something like this? Let me know in the comments, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.